Hello and welcome to another episode of Flo's First and Favourite. I'm David.
And I'm Blair. And on this episode, we have with us his bitter truth.
Whoa!
Hello.
How are you doing? Welcome.
I'm good. I'm great. I'm happy to be here with you guys. Excited to be doing this.
Yeah, no, we're super excited to have you on the podcast. And what we need to, full disclosure to anyone listening or watching along, we have known each other for a couple of years now. And we're going to obviously talk about an up and coming, very exciting release that we've got coming up together.
Oh, yeah.
Track called Power, which we're all super proud of. But first, we must go back to the very beginning. So if you could just tell us a wee bit about yourself, like where you grew up,
oh, jeez,
and the start of your life. It's a bit
where
deep
were you
initially.
born? What day?
I feel like I should be lying
false
down for this.
Yeah.
Well, doctor, you see, it all started. Okay, so I born in Edinburgh, grew up just outside, and then spent a lot of my most recent life down in London for 13 years.
Nice.
And now I'm back up the road in Edinburgh. And yeah.
So we're obviously you're very involved in music and are a very successful singer, but I'm always keen to know singing, because it's such a natural thing. Like, do you have any memory of your first time you were like, I really enjoy this is something great?
Well, see, it's a bit weird for me. So I wasn't the kind of musical theatre kid, or I wasn't the school show and all that kind of thing, because I was really painfully shy. I would make my younger sister pay for sweeties at the shop. That's how shy I was. Yeah. So I didn't actually sing in front of anyone other than my mum, dad, and my cousin until I was 20.
No way.
Maybe, I think.
Wow. Okay.
That's so surprising to hear.
That is so surprising.
Yeah. It was a very late bloomer. I just was really, really shy. So it's something I'd always done in my bedroom, and I loved to do. And it was weird. I don't know if I ever thought, oh, I'm good at this. I was I would sing along to records and I'd be like, oh, I can kind of make that same sound. It sounds the same. Or I can replicate that. And then I just got a lot of joy out of it. And it was always something I thought, I think I really want to try and pursue this.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it wasn't until I went to uni that I kind of got the confidence to try. And didn't look back, really.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, it was something that I kind of kept to myself for a long time.
Wow.
So
was it a very musical household growing up?
Not really. I mean, Italian background, so there was a lot of Italian folk music, a lot of pop music. We're kind of MTV generation, so there was a lot of pop. So I just looked at the screen.
Just for anyone listening, Blair's had to leave. Yeah. For all you listeners out there, Blair's had to leave the room because his cat has walked in. Isla, the techno cat has arrived and has disrupted Blair's flow.
Oh,
But it's so funny because Isla, anytime Blair's at the desk, Isla always comes in.
She appears.
She
I'm sorry. Her moment.
Technocat is she's a diva and wants to be known and seen all the time. So apologies, but
no worries. She was trying to upstage me, but I will not have it.
Yes, I won't allow it. I will not allow it. We've had discussions about it, so yeah.
She's been put away. With Technocat later.
Yeah, good.
So you mentioned obviously growing up, it was Italian household, and you were sort of it was a lot of Italian folk music. But who would you say sort of was your musical inspirations when you were growing up?
So I listened to a lot of soul music. That was kind of really where I kind of educated myself, and it was listening to people like Aretha Franklin and Stevie Wonder and Donny Hathaway. These kind of like just amazing soulful vocalists, but amazing songwriters and performers. And I think it was really the live performance that got me. Was that kind of really singing from their souls and really the emotional expression of the music and the lyric and the storytelling in that way that really appealed to me. And that was kind of how it just made sense. As much as I'd grown up with so much pop music and randomly could remember a lot of 80s pop music, even though I was really young at the time, but I still love a lot of 80s music as well. But it was just very different. That was more production and music led, whereas the music of like Aretha and Donny and these types of people, of course, the musicians were so talented and skilled, but it was more about the storytelling and the connection with the soul and the emotion of the song. And that really spoke to me, and that's kind of how I learned to sing, I guess, and how I learned to definitely write as well, with vocal ranging and all that type of thing.
Yeah, that's something I've never so to be completely honest, I would love to be able to sing. And the hardest part for me is in the last few years I've taught myself like piano. Yeah. And living with my flatmate Ryan, who can sing and is really great ear for tune. Mm-hmm. I've started to pick up. I've kind of accidentally made myself worse by being able to hear now that I'm totally out of tune. And then when I try and correct it, I overcorrect the wrong, like way over. So it's something that I find fascinating, and is that kind of vocal arrangement type thing of how I mean, it's harmony at the end of the day, and what notes sit with other notes. But was that something you had to work towards, or was it just I can hear this and this is how these have done it, so how do I try that?
Yeah, it was more just by ear, to be honest. I didn't really know the terminology, like thirds and fifths, and like how harmony would work and things. I'd get a feel for it, and just sort of figured it out that way, and figured my way around an arrangement and in that way. It's quite a strange thing, and it's something that, even though it's been such a huge part of my life now for such a long time, it's never something that I've gone in and thought, right, let me sort of get my music theory down. Like I tried to play piano when I was super young, and I did a bit of music theory then, and I can find my way around keys, but it's not something I kind of continued or could be bothered with, to be honest. I wanted the kind of quick fix. He was having me play all these like, really basic tunes, and I was like, I wanted to do like jazz improv.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
What is this shit? But
I'm here for the free flowing jazz.
Yeah. Where's the jazz class? So with music and writing as well, that it kind of just came that way too, like just layering up vocals and playing about with it, having fun.
Do you find it quite addictive, that process of layering up? Because obviously when working with vocalists, they're like, oh, maybe I can add another little harmony on it, or something like that.
So the term kitchen sink's been used a few times. So I'm a lover of the vocal. I'm a lover of the arrangement. So I mean, before we came on, we were talking about posts. I was in the studio today, recording a track, and it ended up being 94 vocal tracks, and that was quite a small arrangement. It turned out to be quite a lot. But that's with like lots of doubles and like stacking tracks and all that kind of thing. So, but I love, for me, just like a producer would layer up different synths and different instruments and different elements to the music. That's how I use vocals as well, with vocal arranging. I hear all the different parts as integral to the music. I don't hear them as what a lot of people treat backing vocals as something to be in the very, very, very back, very faint, and just every now and again. I'm like, no, it's part of the song. And
Mm.
again, that probably stems back to my, education with Motown and all these things, because the BVs and all those parts, they're the parts that people usually sing along to. They're the recognizable bits.
Totally.
And so to me, that's how I came to it. So I struggled with it a lot at the start, because I do these tracks and then the engineer would mix it and the BVs would be like, I couldn't even hear them. I'm like, could you bring those up, please? And I'm like, no, it's actually part of the melody. It's like, it's I use it as part of the songwriting as opposed to, color type thing. So do you
find that? Do you find that from producer to producer that kind of differs, just in terms of like their understanding of what you were just describing around kind of how? Because certainly for myself and Blair, if we've got a vocal on the track, that is the focal point, and that's kind of our like understanding of like pop music. Like if you think of all the classic pop tracks, the vocal always sits right at the top, and basically the music at the bottom, that's just to almost accompany the vocal itself. Do you find that like it kind of differs?
It's different with everyone, and I think it comes down to experience with vocals as well, because there's a lot of house producers that are used to using like samples and things, so they're comfortable with something that's already compressed, really polished. They can chop it up. But if you give them a raw vocal, they're not too sure what to do with it. And that's no kind of disrespect to anyone. That's just experience, and just certain people are better at certain things. And I think vocal production's an art in itself, and not everyone is able to do that. I think the way I write is very specific, and not everyone necessarily gets it or gels with it. There's a lot of times I'll do like a whole vocal arrangement, they'll send back a mix and they've basically just ripped out all of the backing vocals and they've just used the lead. Because that's what they want. But sometimes that's all you need. And sometimes for certain songs or certain music or certain genres, that's just how it is. It doesn't have all the other colour to it. So as much as I try not to take it personally, it just is what it is. It's just, that's how it works sometimes. I mean, if I had my way, it would be like every vocal that's on there. But sometimes it's more like an idea thing, or certain things will trigger different ideas, go in different directions. It just depends, really.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I don't think a lot of people understand or realize, unless you're actually doing recording, and even some people who are new to recording, like, you talked about doubles and stacking and all that good sort of stuff, is a lot of the time you think in a pop song you're hearing one take, and you just think that one person is singing that once, and look how brilliant and full that sounds, when really, as you say, could be 94 tracks of takes and audio. And like, it's that having that is, it totally fills the thing, and there's different sibilances and there's different nuances to like how each take goes. And I personally love hearing that. Like, I mean, the classic example of like Late is, Billie Eilish stacking her vocals however many hundreds of times. But like that she's basically created a sound very similar to that sort of, as you say, the Motown backing thing, where they'd have 4 or 5 backing vocalists all singing together, but their timings, you can't, we're not robots. They have to be, everyone's got their own little flavor and everything, and how all that comes through is one wall of sound. It's like, can be what defines the character of a tune. But then conversely, as you say, like, there's that whole thing of just being like, well, I just kind of want this really eerie, haunting, like one vocal thing in like a house tune. So it's, I mean, I guess as someone who works with a lot of people, both for yourself and then, collaborating, like, does that ever feel daunting, or how do you approach it? Like, how does it come about?
In terms of
like writing and singing for stuff, like when you hear a tune, someone says, "Hey, could you write for this?"
So it's funny. I was talking today with Tasha about that. It's like, for me, I've always, the way I write is almost a reaction to the song. I'll hear melodies usually first, and sometimes words will pop into my head. It sounds really corny, but it's almost like you're kind of like you're trying to get in tune with the song, and you're letting it take you where it wants to be taken.
Yeah.
And like for me, songs are already out there. You just have to kind of capture it and harness its energy, and it will tell you what it wants to be.
Why am I seeing you with a Ouija board in a room?
Yeah,
just
I've got
headphones
like a
on,
stick, kind of like trying to like. I am here. I'm open for you.
It's like finding water.
Show me the way. That's such a nice thought. Like like it's almost a spiritual experience. You know, you hear that instrumental or demo idea for the first time, and you're like, you know, you might just start humming a melody, and you know, and I think there's a lot of beauty to that, you know, and it obviously kind of goes all into people, sort of like from the guitar based music world, you know, they might come up with like a little guitar lick or something like that, and then the singer comes in and, you know, gives it a little bit of zhuzh.
Yeah, it's finding that moment of synergy between all the parts, and I think that's how it doesn't always work, because it's not always, the synergy isn't always there between the producer and the writer. Like I might hear something and they're hearing something completely different, and it just doesn't click and it doesn't work, and that's fine. I usually prefer just to do the first or second kind of go at a track, because that's where what I'm hearing, and that's what I feel from it. I think anything more than that, I start to lose the love for it a little bit, and it feels more like work, which is a different style of writing, and I can do as well and have done, but it's not what I prefer to do. I prefer to be choosy nowadays. So it's like, it's more, you know, with our track, it was more, that's just how it felt to me is what came out of me, and thankfully you guys vibe to it too, so it worked.
Well, it bangs. So
well, it does. This is very true. It's undeniable. But it's just for me, it's an expression of that. It's how a piece of music makes me feel, and that's what comes out writing wise. And usually that will lead to a word or an emotion that I want to sing about in that, with that melody. And then it builds that way, and it usually happens quite quickly. At least for either the hook or a verse idea, it's usually the hook that comes out first, and it's like it builds itself out. It reveals itself quite quickly, let's say, and then it's just about honing it and sort of fine tuning. And sometimes you hit it first time. Sometimes it takes a few different passes just to get it right. You know, you go back and forth with the producer saying, "Oh, I really love that idea. Could you maybe develop that and go with that instead of this bit?" And you know, some tracks take a little longer to show themselves than others. I sound like I'm total like pure hippie with like crystals and bells trying to like find a song, but it is you know, as abstract as it sounds, it does feel like that. It is quite an organic sort of emotional reaction to something, because that's what music is. It's such an emotional expression rather.
Totally. And if you're not having that reaction to it, then how can you expect other people to? I think is like my opinion of music in general, especially making music. It's like, if it doesn't like hit with you, then, you know, it might hit with some other people, but like it has to. Music generally comes from yourself. So like there are times where and I'm sure we've spoken about this many times, Dave, is that like there are times you sit down to start a track and you will spend a good hour and a half like putting together a beat and like maybe a bass line. You're sitting there and you're like, all right, this is not too bad. And then literally about 3 minutes later, out of nowhere, you're like, wow, this is the worst thing I've ever made. This is absolutely terrible. I hate this. And then like you can just save it and put it away. And like so many of these things talk about, you know, you just want to get rid of all the bad stuff first. But yeah, it has to, you have to feel some kind of way about it. For it to really hit. But I mean, the weird thing for me, like we're talking about like quite technical and I guess spiritual you know, with your crystals and your
I'm very
incense.
relaxed right now.
I know. I just like.
I actually feel like I'm listening to our podcast, and I'm very soothed.
Good.
But the thing that's still sort of really surprising for me, having spoken to you the last couple of years, is you weren't singing publicly until you were 20. So like, how did you go from not singing in front of anyone but your immediate family to like your first release? Like, how did that come about?
First release. So it's kind of weird. I kind of went from 0 to 100 quite quickly. So I decided that it was something I wanted to pursue. So I got the Yellow Pages because I'm that old. And I looked up.
That's old school.
That's old school. And I looked up singing teachers in Edinburgh. And I found a couple. Right. And then I ended up going with one in particular. I started getting some sessions with her, and it was more to do with giving me confidence rather than like singing lessons type thing. And she was really great, and I'm forever grateful to her for like yanking my voice out of me, really giving me that confidence. And it was through her that she knew this producer that again was based in Edinburgh, and she was like, you should really meet up with this guy. You might be able to work together. And then I think he was like listening at the door one day when I was doing one of my sessions with her, and we spoke afterwards. And he's like, "Oh, I really like your voice. Let's try something." And then we kind of just dove in and ended up recording an album.
Wow!
Yeah, it was like I can't even remember now. There's about 18 tracks on there or something. It was ridiculous. It was just full shebang with a band in the studio. I was starting to write all of a sudden from nowhere, never done it before. And I came up with an album, and then this thing came out, and it was an amazing time. It was an exciting experience for me because I got to, cut my teeth on performing live with a full live band with like a horn section and everything. It wasn't a lot of, because I was doing a lot of soul R&B stuff at the time. And a lot of people on that scene would normally be doing stuff with backing tracks and just doing live PAs. They wouldn't necessarily get to play with a band. So I was really privileged and honoured that I got that experience quite early on. And it taught me a lot. And it really influenced just me as an artist and a performer, really, to get to do that. And I listen back and, it's your first thing. It's obviously you're not going to think, nailed it. But... But, there's a lot that I love, and it just is, I think with anything that you record, it's a snapshot of a moment, writing-wise, production-wise, lyrically, and vocal-wise as well. Like, it is just a snapshot. So you grow and develop so much as an artist, or at least you should do, as the years go on. And it changes. So inevitably, you will listen back to some of your past releases and kind of go, wouldn't have done that, or different, and other stuff. You're like, it still stands, and you still love. But it was great to be able to do that, and I got to release it on vinyl as well, and it was a full shebang. It really was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed.
I think though that's talking of like kind of the spiritual side of things again. But I do genuinely believe that was meant to happen, that collaboration. You were in that position. The producer was also just happened to be there, and it just came out beautifully, and it was nice and kind of natural.
Well, yeah, I think that's been my career, to be honest, because it's never been something nothing I've done I've planned. Like, I've never sat down and going, right, here's my 5-year plan. Let's make some tick boxes and list all these things. There's been stuff that I wanted to do, and I've done them, but one thing led to another, and that's just how my career's gone, really, to be honest. Which is scary, but because you don't know what's next. But also, it's really exciting because you don't know what's next. So, stuff. And for me, it just things that happen organically are just much better anyway. I think there's just more meaning and weight behind it, and it's just easier. I think when you try and force things, it doesn't necessarily work. So I enjoy that process of just things happening, being introduced to certain people along the way, and then like, oh, let's try something, and then that leads to something else, and that release gets heard by such and such, and then they were like, oh, well, why don't you jump on a track with me? And so it just happens that way. It's like kind of join the dots where you don't know where the dots are.
Nice. I mean, that sounds lovely in a way. It sounds frightening as hell, but like,
yeah,
I suppose in that way that like, it will be one of those things as with peaks and troughs, like where it'll be oh, this is the coolest thing ever. And then another, oh my gosh, this other things come of this really cool thing. And this other things come from that thing. And, but then naturally there will be times where the cool things aren't happening as much.
God, yeah. I mean, it's really hard, and there's so many dark moments. And as someone who's an independent artist, I don't have a team of people behind me going, "Come on, you can do this," or let's try something else. If something doesn't work out, I'm gonna like sit under my duvet for a couple of days and be like, "Well, that's a bit shit." It's hard to be like self-motivating all the time, and you can't all the time because you're human. So there are days that you're just like, oh, why am I doing this? And then there are other days where you're like, oh, I remember. And you just hope that the good days outnumber the bad. But if they don't, then fortunately or unfortunately, you keep going because it's something that you really, passionate about and have inside me to do. And the last few years have been very different for various reasons. And I'm now getting back to getting to record a bit more and write and getting to release and things, and it really feeds me in such a great way, and I'm so grateful for it. And what's great again is that it's all quite organically happening now again. It's not something I've necessarily went, right, I need to do this again, I want to get out there and record and release. It's just stuff that's just happened, and then release dates are what they are, and conversations happen and people reach out, and stuff just kind of happened organically again, which is really nice.
Nice.
I do generally think that like what is for you won't go past you as well in life. If it's meant to happen, and collaborations and kind of that song comes out, or I generally do believe in that. I know that's a bit kind of kind of like sort of a bit of a cliche to say that, but I do genuinely believe in all of that.
I try and believe in it too, and there's some days that I really do, and then other days I'm like, that's a load of bullshit. Because it feels hard. But I hope it is. It'd be nice to, but you just don't know what that something will be. So I guess it's just about, it comes down to kind of being in the moment. I think there's only so much forward planning you can do, and the past is in the past, and the future is none of your business, I like to say. And it's like you just have to be in the moment, because you just kind of, you miss out if you're not in the present, I think. And thinking about the future too much, there's too much worry in that. You just don't know. You can tie yourself up into knots. At least I do. It's like, oh, what if this and what if that, or what about that, what about this, and I've not done this, and I've not gone there. It doesn't really matter. It's just about this moment, being here and now with you guys, recording this. Today's a good day.
I mean, yeah, you've had a good day, a day in the studio, and then you get to chat to us for about an hour. I mean, who would want any more?
I know.
What's more to want in life?
I know. Say, literally from that recording of the album comes out. When was it sort of after that you moved into sort of live performing? Was that around that time, or was that a little bit before?
It was part and parcel, really. We did it at the same time. So I was getting to know the guys in the band, and we were getting them in to do session work on the tracks. Excuse me. So yeah, I was getting to gig around town, and we had like a residency in Henry's Jazz Cellar, which I don't think is there anymore. It was this little jazz bar, and yeah, got to kind of learn on the job, I guess is what you'd call it, to figure all that out. And I loved it. I'll never forget the first gig I did was in this place called the Bongo Club. It was this arts club in the city centre. And I remember being on stage and almost having like an out of body experience, looking out into the crowd and kind of going, this is right. This feels right. And I just knew I never get nervous really, because it just feels so comfortable to do that. And I've sung in front of, God, I remember doing the Radio 1 Extra live tour, and we came to Edinburgh, but I don't think we did much. There wasn't much promo, or at least not many people turned up. So there was a girl with her mum fighting over a bottle of Blue Wicked, and a homeless guy, trying to pull a brush off of his dog. And
Perfect.
It was raining, and so I sang for them live on the radio. And then equally, I've sung in front of like 30,000 people in Hyde Park. So there's that and everything in between, and I just love it. It just, whatever size of the audience is, it makes me happy to do, and I love to create those moments with people, with musicians, and to have that exchange of energy with an audience, and it just excites me, and it just really fulfills me. I just love it.
What was the 30,000 at Hyde Park?
I was just casually singing backing for KYLIE and Jason.
Just
name drop.
I just pick that up. That's no big deal.
I'd done the research and I'd seen that one.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
That is incredible though. Like what a couple of legends, and it must have been like emotional, because like KYLIE is such a global superstar. And probably you could go right round the world and people would have heard of KYLIE, and and she and what I think is so like respect, or what I respect most of artists like KYLIE, they've been able to kind of do it decade after decade and still come out with a tune and stay relevant. And I just think, and I just think that's like, that those sort of artists, they are few and far between, because suddenly everyone's like kind of no longer with us, or they've just retired, and I just think that's, moments like that must have been like such an emotional experience doing.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, you just think back at 10-year-old you watching them on Top of the Pops, and singing Especially for You, and then suddenly you're on stage behind them singing the backing vocals for it. You're like, what?
What's happening?
Very surreal. Very, very surreal. And there was a really funny moment. So he wasn't, some like backstory to this. Jason wasn't supposed to be, Jason, like he's my friend, Mr. Jason Donovan wasn't supposed to be in the gig. So we derived, me and the choir, I was there with House Gospel Choir, and we derived there, and we were waiting backstage to be shown where to go for like dressing rooms and everything. And then suddenly this guy just cycles past us backstage, and we're like, was that Jason Donovan? So, and it was. So the plan was, because I think when KYLIE performs it, usually her backing singers do the Jason part, and she sings the KYLIE part. So I think that was the plan for the show. We were doing backing on other songs as well. And so we were all in the dressing room, and then in pops KYLIE in her dressing gown. And she's like, hey guys, so I've got a special visitor. I just wondered if we could try this thing. So she comes in with her guitarist with his acoustic guitar, and in pops Jason Donovan, and we do an impromptu acoustic version of Especially for You in the dressing room. We're like, what is this life?
What is
happening? To see it on stage.
That's surreal.
So it was really cool. Yeah, it was a cool memory and a cool experience.
And I saw earlier as well that you've performed at Glastonbury and stuff like that. Again, that obviously it was just recently the festival, and it always looks just amazing. Like the kind of diversity of artistry across the bill. There's literally something for everyone, and it just looks like such an amazing festival. I've still to take it off the list.
Yeah, I mean that I was really lucky. I've performed at Glasgow about 4 times now.
Wow.
And the first time I went was as a performer, so I've been very, very lucky with that. And I think the first time was performing with Hertz, which is a band I love.
Cool.
We got to perform with them. Awesome. And then the choir performed a few sets on their own as well, but we performed, I think the most epic, moment was getting to perform with Annie Mac on the John Peel stage. That was about 15,000, I think. And I watched that. That was a moment because I got to do this a cappella moment in the middle of Annie Mac's live set at Glastonbury, where she literally just switches the music off and then does this and, hands over to me to start singing a Prince song, When Doves Cry, a cappella.
Wow.
On stage, and then the choir join in, and then she hits the beat and it all comes in and goes crazy. So that was just epic. I mean, yeah, that was a huge moment. I was really blessed to do that and very grateful for the opportunity.
So speaking of the House Gospel Choir, which you have been a part of for quite some time, how did you first get involved in that?
So with HGC, well, I was doing a lot of solo performing. I was doing a lot of function band work and all that kind of thing. And it's quite lonely, to be honest, when you're doing it on your own. And I was kind of craving that community that you can get with singing. So I thought it'd be really nice to do something with a choir, just as a kind of a hobby, like to do once a month or something. And a friend of mine told me that a friend of hers had gone to this choir that did house music and gospel music together. And I was like, well, that sounds epic. And they were rehearsing just around the corner from my flat in Hackney. So I was like, well, this sounds like one of those moments. It's just there. And my friend ended up, she couldn't come, she couldn't commit to the timings and stuff. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go on my own and see what happens. And I went. I was shitting it because I hate situations like that. It's like I didn't know anyone. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And then loved it. And I ended up, the choir grew and grew and grew, and I got to be part of it, and I got to vocal arrange, and I got to choir direct, and it kind of culminated. For me, they got signed to Island Records and released an album, so I got to do a couple of leads on that as well. And because I'm now up in Edinburgh, I'm not kind of part of the choir anymore because just location-wise doesn't work. But I still get to do sort of session work through them as well, which is great. They've got a vocal agency called Rep HGC, Rep Vocal Agency, and so I still get to do bits and pieces with them there, which is great.
So you as a solo artist in His Bitter Truth, like where did that first start? In so we've come right from you doing an album with a producer, was that under that name or was that?
No, so I just always went by Raf. It was just my name, and I released under that name. That project came under that name. So I did a lot of, over the years since that album, I started doing a lot of different bits and pieces. So a lot of collaborations, a lot of solo stuff as well. Stylistically, it was a bit all over the place because it was more experimenting for me as well. So it was just like, you'd meet people, let's try something, in that kind of vein. But it ended up that my catalogue was a bit all over the place. And it was mainly a lot of different types of house music and then a lot of soul and sort of pop stuff. And it just got to the point where, I was really lucky over the years. I've been in the offices of like Warner Brothers and Virgin Music at one point, and Sony were around at one point, and it never quite hit. It never quite, the synergy wasn't there. They never really knew what to do with me, and so at points it was suggested, you should go over to the US because soul white boy soul singers just doesn't cut it here.
Right.
And so it was difficult for me because I was getting all the praise and the support, but then it just wasn't materializing into something. I didn't meet the right person that knew what to do with that, which is hard because if they turn around and went, well, you're a bit shit, you'd be like, okay, well, I'll go get better. But when they're telling you I really love your voice and I love what you do, but we just don't know what to do with you. And you're like, oh, okay. I mean, try harder. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of it. And so it got to the point where I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine who's a singer as well. And we were chatting about, trying to make it as an artist and everything. And I remember she said to me, it's like, don't let it make you bitter. And I went, too late. And it just stayed with me. And I got this idea I really like the idea of being introduced on stage as, ladies and gentlemen, his bitter truth, as a kind of concept. And I liked the anonymity of it as well. Because at the start, when my first few releases, I didn't have my face on my Insta. I didn't have my face on the artwork because I didn't want it to be about that. Because there was always judgment, and there was always comment, and there was always like, oh, the voice doesn't fit, the look doesn't fit, the this doesn't fit. And it was just too much. Because, as creative types, we're gentle souls, and, we get, it's hard sometimes. So
it's true. It's true.
So it just got to the point, it's like, do you know what? I just want to release music, and I just want it to be about music. And so I came up with this idea, His Bitter Truth. And I kind of workshopped it. I asked lots of friends about it, and no one liked it. And I was like, really? You don't? And then I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go with it. Because it spoke to me.
Yeah, it's almost not ironic, but I can't think of the word I mean. But like the fact that you're saying, it's his bitter truth and the idea around that whole concept, and you said it to all your friends, and they were like, "Not sure we're into it, mate."
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Just plays more into the name itself, Yeah.
It harks back to what I was saying before, like it's about storytelling for me, and it's about the lyric and the song, and it's that connection, and that's why it's like His Bitter Truth. It's like it's really the expression of my soul.
No, but I think that's nice. It's nice that you've like got a kind of there's a lot of thought that's going into the name and kind of like you want that kind of you wanted that anonymity because ultimately I think that it shouldn't be how you look or what your dress sense is like or what your hair's like or anything like that. But I know obviously in the days of social media now, like people do judge people on how they look, and people can be really mean at times. But I do generally respect that because I do think that the art should always come first. But looking at Blair and I, but like Blair's massive, I'm tiny, so like we look like an odd pair together. But we don't really care. We've always even stylistically it's not like we've got sort of kind of like we're not like the Hives or something like that where every release we've got a new coloured suit on or something, but which looks great on some acts and stuff like that kind of and I remember with Hearts they had this super like really nice dress sense and stuff, but I do generally think that for the listener it should be about the actual art itself.
I think it'd be hilarious if someone tried to style us.
Sounds like a challenge.
You could be on stilts.
Oh my god! Because like I couldn't get two different. One, we've got very different styles. Like I don't think I could rock a Fred Perry polo. Or a cardigan like you're wearing right now.
Well, I thought we'd make an effort. I'm sorry.
I mean, you have. I've literally rocked up in a t-shirt and trackies. Like, oh, who cares? But that would be hilarious just to see. But if it could be done, I would also be very keen to see what anyone would try and do with that. But yeah, I completely agree. And
That sounds like a challenge I think you have to put out to your followers. Who wants to style
should we go
flows?
for?
Yeah.
Send us your mood boards.
Yeah. Answers on a postcard.
Background. Let's go present day, right? This track that's coming out, Power.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me go. I'll go Dave first, actually. Yeah, Dave. We put this track together as a bit of a piano house thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember you started it? I'm pretty sure you started it.
I did. So at the time, I've always been super inspired by like piano house and you know, we were actually really, I'm going to do a name drop. We were really blessed to be on a bill with CC Rogers, and Some Days, one of my favorite ever house records. The soul and the voice and the piano, it's just beautiful. Like, and there's so many other great piano house records out there. And actually, it was interesting what you were both saying earlier about like kind of trying to learn the piano. I can't play the piano at all. I know roughly what sounds in key, but I don't have like musical ability. I've touched on it in previous sort of podcasts where I did learn the violin to grade 2 at school, and I used to kind of try and do a singer-songwriter thing and write songs when I was at school, and I, you know, and perform at the
You've
Christmas
written some
concert.
belters. You've written some belters.
Yeah, no, acoustic.
I've got this vision of you in a violin vibe tonight.
Yeah, trying to sing as well. but like, I think for me, like I've always
that'd be the weirdest singer-songwriter flex ever. Is someone just like
no, but it's really it's kind of creepy because you would have that sort of side head because you would have the violin, and your like windpipe would be super like compressed because you're trying to keep the violin on your chin.
I'd love to see that.
But what I was trying to say is that I've always kind of known what's in key, and I've always had a good concept of kind of like musicality without actually having like any musical training, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like with the initial idea, because we've mentioned it in previous podcasts, but Blair and I generally work. One of us will start an idea. Sometimes we do it together, but the vast majority of the time it will be like one of us will start an idea and just send over like a very raw version of it, kind of like roughly mixed, and you know, so there's a kind of vibe, and then we just kind of go, yeah, that's good, or not so good, or that maybe has something in it. And with this one, I do remember that it was kind of like, it was one of the ideas that we had at the time, and that just kind of when I'd sent it over to Blair, we both saw a potential in it.
Yeah.
And kind of I think the piano hook, which I'd written at the time, like definitely kind of like fitted the whole vibe of the track, and I guess the inspiration was always around kind of like that sort of very summery, hands in the air moment. Because amount of times, like when I'm producing or coming up with an initial idea, you know, I will close my eyes and sometimes put my hands in the air and pretend I'm somewhere else.
And did you wave them like you just don't care?
Yeah, absolutely.
Scream if you want to go faster.
You know, and then obviously when I'd sent the instrumental over to Blair in its rawest form, Blair just finessed it basically with all the little bells and whistles.
I think the thing I remember about this tune was the bass line wasn't, like, we went through iterations of having different bass lines for this tune. There was
initially very tonal, wasn't it?
It was very kind of wompy and not that. It worked a bit with the piano, but then like it just didn't feel like it had the kind of groove to it. And I remember we went through maybe 3 or 4 iterations of trying to make the bass line that worked. And then even through till when Raf, you'd actually sent some vocals to us, we were still kind of fine tuning. Is this the right thing? Is this still working? But yeah, I remember thinking this doesn't just need a sample vocal. Like we both very much got the feeling that this was like, this is a song to be a song. You know, it's not just to be, let's take a 2-line vocal from somewhere and loop it and, you know, kind of mess around with it. So, yeah. And then I can't remember, was it Rob or might have been Ilias? It was Ilias. That's who it was.
Yes.
Who was like, when we were like, we're looking to kind of work with singer-songwriters, blah, blah, blah. And he put us in touch. And I think we basically put a SoundCloud playlist together with like 3, maybe 4 tunes on it.
Yeah,
and
I think it's 4 or 5.
Yeah, just like, have at these. We'd love for anything. See what you think.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't even remember if Power was like up there, as in where it was in the list. But I think that was the one that you came back with first. Is that right?
I think so, yeah. I don't think it was first on the list either.
No.
But I think for me, and I think you'll be the same, Blair, like to work with such a talented artist and vocalist and songwriter as yourself.
Stop it.
It actually no, honestly, when we got the vocal sent over, like it actually like it was kind of like a hairs in the back of the neck sort of thing, which I don't even have, to be honest, but they were there. They popped out for a second.
He's keeping the barber shop in check. Just, I don't have hair back there anymore.
Yeah. But if there was hair there, it was definitely standing on end. And like that was like a real moment where I was like, and again, I don't want to speak for Blair, but like I genuinely think that we were like, wow, you know, what an amazing vocal, and it just married up so well with the tune.
Yeah. What if anything do you remember from like basically getting that SoundCloud playlist of a few tunes from us, and like how did you first go about looking into doing any vocals over any of it?
So I was harassed and probably in a bad mood. Not by you, just in general. I remember driving.
I was going to say, we did what?
No, I was feeling harassed by life and work.
Gotcha.
And I was driving around town doing 1,000,001 things. And I got the link through on Insta from you guys. I was like, right, let me put this on while I'm driving around. And then I was like, oh, this is really good. I really like this. And then I listened to the next one. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I started to record snippets on my phone. Because it was just coming to me really quickly. Mm-hmm. And I was like, shit. And for me, it's like, I have to get it down in that moment because it will just go otherwise. Mm-hmm. And these melody lines were just firing themselves at me. And I was like, fuck, I need to get it down. And I'm sure I pulled up at one point to record some bits. And then I think I messaged back and says, definitely got a couple ideas. And
yeah,
I think Power was definitely one of the first one because for me too, like Piano House is just, I love Piano House, and the vibe that it gives is just something that I really, really love. So when I heard that, I was just like, oh, okay then, I have to be all over this track because this is epic. And the reach for your power line just came straight away. And I knew it had to be something impactful. And I knew it had to be something uplifting. And kind of like you, Dave, I could imagine it in my head, hands in the air, in a stadium, being blasted, everyone singing along. Like that's how I heard. That's how I saw it. Never mind, heard it in my head.
Yeah.
And like of late, a lot of my writing has been quite like therapy, to be honest. And it's probably something that I've not realized until after I finish writing it, because it just comes out, stream of consciousness almost. And then I listen back and I'm like, interesting. I should be listening to my own advice that I've just sang in a song. And this was very much one of those. It's about having that power inside you to kind of just having that strength. We look to other people all the time for help, or sometimes you do need help, but just to know, appreciate your own worth and appreciate your own strength that you do have inside you. It's like one of the lines, it was in you all along type thing. It was always there.
Yeah.
Like the Wizard of Oz. It's like she could have gone home at any point because the magic was inside her all along. And it's just about that message, and it just felt really uplifting and good in that way. And I just remember being super, super excited. And when I record, like if I get that feeling, I always have that anticipation when I hit send to send a demo to the producers. And I remember feeling it big time with you guys, because I was like, oh my God, I really hope they love it. I hope they love it. Please, 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 please. Because I felt it so much. And just like you said, it felt really right. For me, it felt really, really right too. It was that synergy I was talking about at the start. It worked because it was the song arrived. And it was just the planets aligned type moment. So it just all felt right. And it just, for me, the vocal just really worked with the amazing production that you guys have created. And thankfully, you guys liked it too. And then recorded it. And again, doing that vocal, I hadn't been singing for quite a while. So it's a rather large vocal. It's up there. Yeah. And I think that had a lot to do with the emotion of the song as well, and the lyric, because I really meant it. I really mean it. So about finding that strength inside you to keep going and just to keep trying, really, I guess. And again, that kind of harkens back to what we were talking about before, being like, you don't have a team of people behind you saying, keep trying, keep going, you can do this, you got this. So trying to find that you can rely on yourself as well when you do feel like you're so depleted. You do have that inside you. There's still that glimmer of something inside that you can latch onto and push you on to the next peak.
Do you have a favorite lyric or moment from the tune?
Probably the trust me when I tell you had it all along, power to reach inside. It doesn't quite go like that. It sounds better on the record, I promise.
That's my favourite bit as well. I just think that with the backing as well, and the ARP line that kind of tails off a little, and it just kind of it's just before the big build to the final chorus.
It's interesting, I think, for me, because I would say for me that the my favorite bit, you're talking about it being a bit of therapy for yourself. The opening into the first verse of the "Now listen here," that was just it grabs you straight away, and it almost feels like you're taking someone, not necessarily slapping them around the face, but maybe a bit by the scruff of the neck to just be like, come on, you may feel like you're lonely in this world, but look around, and it's it's that whole thing of it's that reality check element.
I just got goosebumps.
But it is, that's what it is. To me, that's what it says. It's it's someone pulling someone out of that funk or weird space or whatever it is they're in, and I think for me, it's it is so, it's power. It is empowering, and it's it just right from the get go, you're in with, this is what we're doing. This is where we're at, and this is what it's about. So, and then as you say, you've got the trust me when I tell you, then comes right through again with that sort of sentiment of kind of pushing forward and just being come on, you've got this. I loved it. I remember when I heard it, I think I was in the car. I think you sent it over, and when you said, you were recording bits in the car, I remember you sending that over, and then literally what felt like 15 minutes later was, oh my God, this is perfect. I've got so much stuff to record. And I was just amazing, sweet, really looking forward to hearing it. Because usually if someone's excited about something like that, you're sweet, this, should be awesome. And it was even above that. So it was class.
Oh.
So, yeah, for me, it's just like, it's such a big tune. It's such a big tune. But yeah, sorry, I was kind of over the top of you there where you're talking about
No,
the Trust
no.
Me When I
Well,
Tell You section.
I was just going to say, like, I think good music should hit you on different levels. Like, there's just good music that's just a good vibe. You don't even know what the words are. You're just vibing because the song's just right and it speaks to you in some kind of way. And then I think the mark of a good song is that you can go deeper in it, and then there's different layers to it.
Yeah.
So then there's a melody line that grabs you and hooks you in, and then you can then listen to it on another level and actually listen to the lyric. And, a good song gets you on all those levels.
Yeah.
And that's always my kind of MO when I write. It's like, I always want it to be just a good song in general, something that people are going to love and move to, a good melody that you'll remember. But equally, tell a story, have a message, to, be meaningful in some kind of way, because why not? And, that's where this kind of came from. It's just that, we've all gone through a bit of a crazy time the past few years, some more than others, others in different ways, and quite a big disconnect, I think. So a lot of the stuff that I'm writing of late is about that kind of, we are in this together, and there's, you're not alone, and all those cliches, but it's true. And sometimes you need to hear that. And what's really beautiful is I've had feedback on songs in the past where I have commented on the lyric and said, that really spoke to me and that was really comforting, or that really meant a lot, which is beautiful for me to hear. Because for other people, it's just like, oh, that's a great tune, I love it. Because they just love the vibe of it. Maybe it's the production, it's the piano line, or it's just the melody line, or it's something, and they just stick onto that and they love it, and that's great. But then you get other people that kind of dig a bit deeper, or it resonates with them on a kind of deeper level, which is amazing too. And as a writer, it is amazing to hear that people do latch onto it on that level as well. And especially with this track, I hope when people hear it, they do feel uplifted, and they will request every DJ they know to play it as well. Because it's just, I feel like, again, going back to what you were saying, David, like I hear it, I see it on like a big scale. It's just such a massive track to me in my head.
Yeah.
And, production wise and vocal wise and lyrically, just there's quite a synergistic moment, I feel, and it'd be great to kind of see it spread its wings and kind of get out there to as many ears as possible. I hope people love it, and I hope people vibe to it, and I hope it maybe even helps some people as well with a message.
Ditto.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Sister.
So it is coming, believe it or not. Whenever this comes out, we know it's coming out the 4th of August. We know that much.
When?
It's the 4th of August? I think 2023. The 4th.
2023. Yeah.
This year, the 4th of August. It's going to be available to buy if you are one of those people. Go, when you say, your favorite DJs, just annoy your favorite DJs. Just say, hey, have you heard this tune? Because they should also be buying it for their sets. But if you're those, lovely people who like it on streaming services, it'll be there too. The 4th of August. I mean, if you're really keen, the 3rd of August at midnight, it'll be there. So, I mean, and you're getting treated to 2 versions of it. There are 2 versions of it.
Yeah.
So there's a radio edit if you like, your little 3.5 minute tracks. Or if you like the full Boona, there's a 6 and a bit minute.
Yeah, it's an
here's
epic
the
journey.
thing. Here's the thing, listeners. You need to listen to the 6-minute one, because there's so many extra tasty bits in that. It's not just like extended for no reason. There's so much amazingness in those 6 minutes that you don't get to hear in the radio edit. You get like the highlights in the radio edit. It's great. It's amazing. Quick fix. But take the time, sit down, or no, don't sit down. You'll be standing up. Jump around and listen to the 6 minute. I'll just say that we have created for you all.
Yeah, what I will say is that in the extended, there's if you like things to go a little bit tougher, we were very much on our heavy art line hype at that time, weren't we, Dave?
Absolutely.
There's a big art drop with some incredible, just soulful vocal right over the top of it, which
is fat.
Yeah, it kicks. It kicks like a mule. So yeah, definitely check that out. Playlist them both. Why not?
Share them.
Please
give it
do.
to your friend. Give it to your auntie.
Christmas is not long round the corner.
Play it around the dinner table.
Download it for your mixtapes.
Yeah. Just basically get it out there, everyone, because it's and on a serious note, and we've touched on it, it's a very difficult time for everyone at the moment, and this is the sort of uplifting track that can help people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it's interesting into it. Like, we can drop a tiny touch of exclusivity here. This isn't the last time we're going to be hearing from Flows and his bitter truth. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, there's more to say on that. Do we want to say much more than that? We take the stunned silence as no.
I quite like it. I like the suspense.
You like the suspense? Well,
yeah, I think
is it always leave them wanting more?
Yeah.
That's what you say, right?
Let's do suspense.
Let's do suspense.
Okay. Well, then there you go. That's all you need to know. There will be more if you want. Well, no, it's happening. Whether you want it or not, it's happening.
There is no poll. There is no decision
brilliant.
to be made. It's happening.
Yeah. It's coming to you whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Right. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Raf, His Bitter Truth, for joining us in the sort of reinstatement of the podcast.
Amazing.
It's been amazing
What
to
an
talk to you.
honor.
Yeah, it's been lovely. Yes.
Well,
What
hopefully
a
I've not
wonderful
talked-
way to spend an evening.
I've not talked too much crap. Hopefully, it made some sense. I've just kind of rambled. But hey, there you go. I'm
There's
excited.
been a lot of spiritual wisdom in there.
Very much.
Yeah. I've learned a lot. I won't lie. I've learned a lot.
Good.
Everyone that listens to this, please give us a like, ring
Follow,
that bell,
subscribe.
ding, ling, ling. Subscribe. I'm going to do that at the end of every podcast now, like the YouTubers
Oh,
do.
brilliant! We need to get you a graphic for your ding-a-ling.
Yeah, because it's for any listener, I'm doing the ding-a-ling sort of
Finger, ding-a-ling,
Ding-a-ling a finger.
ding-a-ling. He's
ding-a-ling
ringing a virtual bell.
Yeah.
Right, Dave, stop the recording before it gets any worse.
Anyway, peace out. Enjoy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace.